Hello, everyone, and welcome to Carbonite Bounty BS. Little different format today, so we're going to try something new, and this is really more much of a kind of a pilot episode. So for everybody out there listening and watching us on all our platforms, this is going to be a way for you to kind of pilot something new for us, give us feedback on this, and as far as our platforms, you can view us and hear us on. I'm going to kick this over to Dog Pound Brown, and he's going to let you know how to reach us.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. That's where you can find all our links to all our favorite, social media platforms as far as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're at Nerdcyclopedia. Make sure that you are watching us on YouTube, which you are right now, or on Facebook. You're hitting that notification button and also hitting the subscribe button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. You can actually leave us some feedback at nerdcyclopedia.com because we love our feedback here and we love talking to you and getting that feedback on the air and everything.
Great, great. So to kind of allude to this, obviously this was chapter 13, the Jedi. We did some discussions over the holiday, as everybody has done, I'm sure, and it was just one of the things I brought to the table, and the thought that we should maybe try something different, as far as a kind of a fan forum show for everybody, a little holiday, our Black Friday bonus gift to all our Nerd Cyclopedia followers. So we're going to try it out, see how it works, but predominantly the questions will be based on, obviously chapter 13 of The Mandalorian, but also they'll lead into some other topics that we'd like to discuss to kind of see, each of us have different ideas about Star Wars, different viewpoints on characters. Like I said, obviously there's 25 different YouTubers out there that you guys can really watch reactions from. So we wanted to give you guys a different spin and see how you guys like it. Obviously, comment to us. Let us know your thoughts if you want to keep it, if you maybe think you want it as a bonus show, things like that. We're open to feedback. So without further ado, we'll start the first point here as we see Kendo with newly named Grogu. So Grogu to the show.
Grogu, what's up, dog?
Sit back down.
Yeah.
He said sit back down.
Better parenting than Mando.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Right, so we're going to start this show off, and I'm going to kick it over to Hitch first. And like I said, it's going to be an open forum, something new for us. So, like I said, this is pilot. Please, give us a little bit of slack. It'll be a little different as far as switching things. Really, the first topic I want to get into is obviously we've all watched hopefully you've seen episode 13 or chapter 13, the Jedi. A lot of things have came out that I know we discussed, off camera, off air, some of our thoughts on it, but. What do you think the future holds for Star Wars now? I mean, we looked at our last three movies, and we don't all want to bring them in, but as Filoni has just showed us, we're going to get a lot more continuation and a lot more, kind of togetherness from either the Rebels cartoons. It's going to be the movies. He's going to try to string it all together. So, really, what do you think as far as the future holds? A lot of people you hear on the internet aren't happy with female heroines being Rey being leading the franchise. Maybe now looking at Ahsoka, Bo-Katan series. What are your thoughts so far as where do you think this is headed?
The first thing I want to say is that it definitely reminded me of this season reminds me of the Simpsons spin-off spectacular episode where they start talking about all the crazy different shows they're going to have that sprout out of the Simpsons. And I think that is absolutely the right thing to do. I know I asked for an X-Wing pilot. I renew that request, please. More. But getting all of these different tie-ins and seeing, and I want to say this, I was incredibly impressed by the effects on the lightsabers in this episode. I thought that they figured out a way to make them look really, really cool and do the right lighting effects in the volume, which is really, really exciting. That's one thing that can look a little hokey if you don't put a lot of money into it. And, you can roto it and stuff, but they really put it on the screen. As far as, having these female characters, these strong female characters, I was thinking after I watched this episode about the late, great Carrie Fisher, and I will tell you this, at no point in time was her Princess Leia ever a damsel in distress. Ever once. She was rescuing her rescuers from the first second she was on screen. And I'll tell you this, female characters and female, heroes being used in the Star Wars universe is awesome. And I love seeing it, and I want to see more of it. So this episode was a real hit for me because they made Ahsoka like scary. Like, she was terrifyingly effective, and I loved every second of it.
Dog Pound, what are your thoughts so far as where you think it'll go, or I guess the next question, a follow up to that is really, who do you think holds the keys in? Is it Filoni? Is it Disney, Star Wars?
You took the words right out of my. I mean, far as I'm concerned, if you give Filoni the keys to this, I mean, he could be the Kevin Feige of this whole universe. I mean, the thing is, when they rebooted and restarted the series, from like the these last 3 episodes of the trilogy, Kathleen Kennedy had a really a big thing trying to find out what direction to go. You had like the first part of the trilogy, which went in one way with J.J. Abrams, and then the second part with Rian Johnson went a whole different way, which upset a lot of people, but actually made a lot of people really good, really happy about that. And then J.J. Abrams came back in to sort of just round everything out, and things became a little convoluted. Had you had Dave Filoni in there just directing the ship, I think you would have had a much smoother sail and everything. But I'm loving like this season. I'm actually loving it a little bit more than like the previous season, but it's still giving me those old school Star Wars vibes and not taking away from like the what George Lucas originally created. So I'm really loving the fact that Dave Filoni and Favreau is coming back to the roots as far as what's going on in these past couple seasons.
Mm-hmm. And your thoughts, Kendo, as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys. I feel that Star Wars now is really improved on itself on the small screen. I mean, honestly, this format, this sort of cliffhanger format, I think they're going to find is very successful. Rebels is successful. Clone Wars is successful. Those are animated, and they've been for years. People have watched those. I think the future of Star Wars is on the small screen. They have a massive budget, so they can do it really well. So I don't see it really going back to a full-blown movie again, because you don't really have to anymore.
How do you, asking that question, Ken, how do you feel about that? Because it does feel right at home on like the small screen. So what would be the need? Well, I'm not saying there's always going to be a need for a Star Wars movie per se, but what do you think about what would a Star Wars movie now be about?
I think they would have to pick a strong character like the Mandalorian and expand somehow on that, or go back into the archives and do something Old Republic, which I think there was some chatter about that.
Yes.
They'd have to go back and see where the Republic started, and kind of what brought all that about, the government part of it. Whether there's an audience for that, who knows? I don't know. But I think right now, the writers have the right vehicle. They know what track to go on, and they're really hitting on all cylinders. I mean, like you said, the lightsaber effect in this small screen setting kind of scared at first. Like, what is it going to be? But it was great. It was legit. They had everything. It was perfect.
It's a hard trip to land, man. It's not easy.
It is.
It's not easy.
It is very hard. And let me talk about the female aspect. I don't think there was any gender assignment or sex strength or weakness in anything that Lucas ever thought about. I think he just had characters. Right. And the character was male or female. I mean, sometimes they were both, right? Lots of both parts. So
right.
I think if anyone out there is saying, "Oh, I don't like all the girls with the power," and but they missing the point. They're missing
the whole point. Yeah.
How you could
not
imagine a pluralistic universe like this with trillions of planets that would be like homogenous is insane. I don't like that. Makes no sense whatsoever.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Like in like reptiles, amphibious. Some reptiles have both parts. They could be your next hero.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think where they're going, I think I'm super comfortable if it stays like this. Hell, how about a Star Wars streaming service?
And me and Hitch alluded to that in the future. There's early talks in that. Um, it's kind of in my point as far as the question. I kind of feel with you guys, Phil. I don't think there's an issue as far as that. It's just one of those things that there are going to be people that like it. There are going to be people that don't. The bigger thing I think the time that people are worried about is the Disney factor. Obviously, Disney has shifted Marvel side, and a lot of the leads are becoming female characters. I just think, as we showed, that just shows versatility. If anything, there's one thing that they feel like, well, Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger has the keys, but I think right after the last three movies, there's been a clear shift of focus, and they're letting the Star Wars guys get this right finally. I mean, they tried their way. They, blew up, so to speak, three movies. I mean, and really did. I mean, if we look at the box office numbers that they costed to make them and the returns on them, it really didn't work.
Let's give them a little bit of credit though, Trenton, because I think you're being a little bit of unfair, because when Disney has received these properties from Lucasfilm, when they purchased Lucasfilm, they knew that they had literally a ticking clock on making a sequel trilogy that included anybody from the original cast, right? And even waiting as long as they did, they didn't finish it in time, right? Now, and obviously that's something that is not, you can't plan for or anything. So I'm willing to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because if they had waited, let's say episode 7 finishes a year later. I mean, think about the production schedule for 8 and 9. I mean, it would just been impossible to really do those movies without Leia. And I feel like I want to give them a mulligan on that whole thing, because it seemed like episode 7 was Harrison Ford's movie, episode 8 was Mark Hamill's movie, and episode 9 was set up to be Carrie Fisher's movie with this conflict and her reaching out to her son through the Force continuously, right? You could feel that was missing, and so I am willing to give them a pass, because they had to get it done immediately, and then they ran into the worst nightmare scenario you could have, right smack in the middle of the thing. So
I mean, that's if if you had the idea of having them in the movie. Now, what if they didn't have the idea of having like Harrison, Fisher, and Skywalker, Mark Hamill in the trilogies? You would have had to come up and create like something different. So they brought them three on just to have the old school people into it and the new school people bring them on with Ray and Ray and all them and everything. But had you not had them in the whole storyline period, you would have had to create something from the ground up. Now this is actually challenging the franchise from coming up with to come up with something from the ground up, which is what I believe what we're getting with the Mandalorian. It's mixing everything from the old school, but actually creating something from all the pieces that are already in the universe, is still creating something from the ground up.
Right. And like Hitch said, I mean, I really do give, obviously me playing devil's advocate, give Disney Star Wars the benefit of the doubt. I mean, and to the point of, we discussed it, the underlying meaning of The Last Jedi, first off, a lot of people didn't even catch, is The Last Jedi really isn't Rey. The story was based on Carrie Fisher and Leia. So truly the movie was supposed to be about Leia. Unfortunately, what had happened, and the focus had shifted to Rey, but literally The Last Jedi in the title was, as Hitch alluded to, all about Carrie Fisher, all about Leia. There were, rumors that she was maybe having lightsaber combat, and they were going to do a lot of interesting things with her. So, like I said, as far as on our first point here, I don't have any issue with different genders, as we even see through, different areas of Star Wars. Not only are there males, there's females, there are amphibious type Jedis that are, different, both sexes in one.
It's like
so
one of the most famous scenes from episode 5 is "Judge me by my size, do you?" Right?
Yes.
I mean, that's literally exactly that's exactly the argument against sexism. That's it. Bam.
Exactly.
It's right there in the text. You don't even have to read the context. It's boop. So it's nice and easy. We can all rest easy on, is this living up to like the history of Star Wars or whatever people who get up their own selves about. not us here on Carbonite Bounty BS.
No. And then starting off the second question, as far as the title of this episode, the Jedi,
I love
what
that.
are some of you guys' thoughts? Are we looking at the title as far as Ahsoka meaning the Jedi, or as we find out, Grogu the Jedi?
It's
What do you
both.
think?
It's both. I mean, we first of all just seeing Ahsoka there. Period. It's just like, wow. I'm not a I'm not a big Clone Wars or Rebels watcher and everything, but did watching this episode made me go watch some of those episodes just to see her in action, because she was just awesome with those lights.
Light swords.
What the Mando said, laser swords with your laser swords. He doesn't even know what they're called. I mean, just the little stuff, like that means that the creators are just paying attention and know exactly what they're dealing with as far as like the universe. Seeing her and seeing Rosario Dawson play the character, which fans had actually fan-casted her years back, wanting her to play the character. So for her to actually come into the character in this just made me say, okay, here's another series that I want outside of Mandalorian. At first I wanted something, with the other Mandalorian characters, Bo-Katan, but now I'm wanting. I just want it all. Give it to me.
What are you thinking, Ken?
I'm in agreement. I wasn't sure where the episode was going to go, and it got a little. I mean, I like finding out a little bit more about the child. Now we know his name, a little bit of background, but then it was a little disheartening that she wasn't the one that was going to train him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then that would have been it. That would have been the end, right? He would have delivered the package and completed that mission and moved on. So now he's got to go to the Jedi Temple and use the Force to awaken someone else to come and finish Grogu's training. So, but I thought that she was going to be it. And man, it was great. I mean, Rosario Dawson looked phenomenal. I don't know how much like CG there was, but I could tell it was her. Like just in the voice and her mannerism, she was like perfect casting on that. And yeah, they could totally spin that off and do a whole new series on that. If they did, imagine that, all the Clone Wars, the animated, if they did that all live action, imagine how much content there would be there.
Like her search for, General Thrawn. I'm like, okay, how would they fit that in this series when
we can't have General Thrawn just rolling into the mix here. I can't. It's just too much. Too much with General Thrawn. I have to draw the line at a certain point, and I'm just gonna have an overload here. But like you threw in Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I know he's been in the cartoons, right, Trenton? He has been
right.
In the cartoon. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody knows who he is, but man, oh man, some of my very, very favorite moments in the hundreds and hundreds of Star Wars novels that I was forced to read because there wasn't anything on TV like this.
And what was he supposed to build the Empire back up? That was his trilogy.
He is the heir to the Empire. The heir to the Empire. So he is the top dog amongst the Imperial admirals that were left over after Palpatine left. Remember, Palpatine's battle meditation basically made all his admirals irrelevant. They didn't matter what they did because he was going to keep the Navy running the right way. But Thrawn is actually really a military genius along the lines of Alexander the Great, along the lines of Napoleon, although that's in dispute. I said that and then my wife told me Napoleon was stupid. So, okay, Russia 1812, look it up. Right.
Plus, he used the Force.
Right. Plus, he was using the Force to trick people into overthrowing the Bourbon monarchy. So God,
that Napoleon. I mean,
he's Napoleon. He's always doing this. So Thrawn he's got blue skin, red eyes, black hair, and he was doing things that were extremely creative. Like he used stolen mining equipment to burrow into the armor of Star Destroyers and had commando teams on these things, take them over, and then fly them out of this big, huge New Republic shipyard. And there was a bunch of other gimmicky stuff with those Isilammaris, the ones that the little lizards that suppress the Force. A lot of stuff with that. But Thrawn is the type of opponent that can beat you even when he has no pieces. So he's just extremely dangerous. And knowing that Thrawn is involved in this process that leads to the First Order, right? That leads to this creation of the First Order, the villainy sect in the sequel trilogy is super interesting. And you can see all the seeds being laid out. And I love Grand Admiral Thrawn. I love it.
So how do we feel about that big name drop? Because, you know, as we were talking about last week, Hitch, when you had that smoking gun and, you know, have that Chekhov's gun and everything, and you drop something like that, you can't just let it alone and leave it be.
Not with Disney's budget.
No, not at all. So is this setting up like something? It almost felt like a setup for, you know, I can't even pronounce her name right. Ahsoka. Somebody save me here. Like Ahsoka Tano's series and everything. Because I can't really see how that's going to fit into Mandalorian, you know, to Mando's mission here. As far as this series, or maybe Obi-Wan, because does she have something to do with Obi-Wan as well?
Not really. Obi-Wan at this point is dead. This is between 5 to 6 years after Return of the Jedi. I will say, kind of, you know, as a sidebar, that obviously there's Obi-Wan series coming. Maybe an X-Wing series to some sort, or maybe something like a smuggler type Han Solo thing. Obviously, we now have the Bo-Katan can be something. The Mandalorian season 3 will be out there. We have Ahsoka Tano, as you said, and now we have Thrawn, which was tied into Rebels because the other person that was with Thrawn at the end of Rebels was Ezra Bridger, which is another Jedi that maybe is foreshadowed to be in maybe the future episodes. But as we're saying, I mean, look, we just reeled off 5 or 6 different series that Disney's building up that, you know, in a grand scheme of things, the next 2 to 3 years with everybody, these kind of streaming platforms breaking free, who says, me and Hitch kind of alluded to it, that Star Wars doesn't have enough content to maybe partner with just Star Wars and Marvel and just say, you know what, here's our app for Star Wars and Marvel content. Because they can do it now based on these spinoffs and how they're setting it up. So, I mean, and you see I believe that's where they bring Feige into the game there, because he was the guy that kind of made the phases with Marvel as far as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I feel like they're kind of bringing him on board to kind of groom Filoni as far as how he's casting these episodes and how they can set it up. Yeah.
Teach that young Jedi, you know, the tricks. Yes. I mean, Filoni, put him on there. Yeah, definitely. And maybe you can actually have Star Wars, the movies, be something gigantic and like something that leads up to, you know, that these series can actually lead up to, you know, as far as like something big and gigantic that we can all.
To be honest, I think that'll be the only way we'll consume it anymore after the last 3. I mean, I'm willing to give it a shot, but the general fan, you know, I just think that'll be the best way for them to consume a movie format, is to kind of lead up to maybe the big supervillain of some sort, or, you know, things like that.
We've been saying,
which will be
the movie industry has been saying television's going to kill us for 70 years now. So, you know, we will sit here and pronounce them, you know, tombstone on Star Wars movies and be wrong, of course. But how many episodes? Let me ask you guys this. This is I know I'm not asking questions this week, but I'm going to ask a question.
No, this is good. We're throwing it around.
Right.
Let's go.
So how many episodes like this one do you need a year to pony up for that Star Wars Plus to get this product? How many are you thinking? Is it 26? Is that like, that would be like 2 seasons of a 13 episode series, or is it more like 48? Where it's like 4 seasons.
How about 12? 12.
Just 12.
12. Give me 12. I'll pay a little extra. That's fine.
Are you talking about like 26 weeks, like you know, or like, you know, we have it like as a weekly thing instead of like as an 8 episode thing, and then we're waiting a whole year for another batch. You know, another. I'd rather have this as like, okay, you have Mandalorian, then maybe a couple weeks after the 8 episodes in, then comes Ahsoka Tano series, and then that lasts for like 8 episodes, and then you come with Obi-Wan's or whatever, and then if you bring Solo back or what have you.
This release mechanism that they have, I'm gonna spread this out for you guys. Ready? Okay. So Mandalorian 2021, right? Season 3, episode 1 comes out like, let's say January 15th. This is just an example, so it's wrong. January 15th, episode 1 comes out, and when is the next episode of Mandalorian gonna drop? Why would anyone need to know? because the next thing that should come out is the next chapter of the story, right? The next linear chapter of the story. So if I'm sitting here and moving through time at the pace I'm moving through, right? I'm not moving through all the, like a binging, right? I'm not binging all this stuff. This stuff's going to reach me one story at a time. And look, maybe the Mandalorian has a 3-episode arc like with the Frog Lady, and we get Mandalorian, and then the next week, instead of Mandalorian, they drop Ahsoka Tano. And we see her go on another one of these missions that ends in an Oren Ishii versus the Bride style duel that is just awesome and sort of just exists in its own universe with an enormous backstory that none of us even can touch, because who knows how deep that goes, right?
So they're not distinguished between the two.
In my world, right? It's just Star Wars TV, and like this week it's the Mandalorian, and next week it's this. You know what I mean? It's just every week or every couple weeks it's the next installment, and it can go in any direction.
That would be heaven for the hardcore fan, but I think you would be losing just a little bit of the casual fans in that route. You know, I guess who really cares about them?
If you're paying extra, then you're definitely a hardcore. Extra to watch specific.
Oh yeah, we're talking about actual Star Wars streaming service. I'm still thinking
so
like
we
Disney
have like
Plus.
What I'm saying is that Disney has an unlimited budget, and they have this brand new thing that is essentially a cash printing machine if they don't mess this up. Like they have now earned a lot of good faith in 13 hours of TV, in my opinion. And if they spin it right, I think that they can make it its own thing. And this is a delivery mechanism that has never existed in the history of the world, where you can put things out without needing a distribution system. This is an insane jump through into technology. And so the order of release, the mechanism of release, the length of the story, they don't have to fit in a box. They don't have to fit advertising. They don't have to fit anything. They can come out at 4 a.m. on a Wednesday if it makes sense for the art. So I'm hopeful that if Disney does that they explore non-traditional storytelling methods, including interwoven stories like that, just because I think it would be rad, and I know they can afford it.
Hitch, I totally agree, because I always thought that, okay, wouldn't it be decent and, I guess neat, if you want to call it old school word, if in between seasons of a particular show, not just Star Wars, of a particular favorite show, let's say Game of Thrones or whatever, you maybe have like a small episode or hour or two or whatever that talks about that goes into like another part of the world or what have you, but just for that summer, in between like, seasons and everything. Now, and you just, cut away like the traditional format, just waiting on the next season, but you actually take the production time and money to make something else to sort of enhance the whole brand and everything, sort of like, just fill it out, and there's nothing wrong with stepping outside the whole story, because like you said, this is a whole different way of distributing, distributing content and everything. They own their own distribution system now. People just have to pay for it. So let's give us something that we haven't really been used to before.
New stuff.
Right. And I totally agree with that stuff as far as what you guys are saying. As far as content, I kind of like Hitch's format. We get a couple episodes, give us a nibble, maybe throw to something else. But I guess the cooler thing is, I would like to look at maybe, and it's kind of cliche, but why can't we end on a part 1 and part 2? I just maybe break it up differently. I know that's kind of old school, but chapter 13, part 1, and it leaves on a cliffhanger. We get the second half, and that, like you said, builds up the suspense. But then you toss it away for a couple weeks. Because really, what that does is, think about it right now. It leaves you craving for more. I mean, every time I watch an episode, I literally stay up till Friday, 3 a.m. now to watch the new one, because I'm literally that consumed by the show that I want more content. So I feel like they're already building up. Yeah. And like I said, Filoni and those guys are doing a great job as far as what they're doing to create the buzz, but we're already kind of fiending for more content. I think they really, like he said, have the reins to kind of roll this out in the future.
Question, Ken, how familiar were you with Ahsoka Tano before this episode? I know you were, but considering that you don't really watch like Rebels or Clones, all like that, how did you feel about her appearance here?
Brand new. I was not familiar with her.
So So just give us a little bit of background, because we know that you're, old school Star Wars. You're strictly, to the movies and everything. So everything outside of the George Lucas canon, is a little, sketchy for you. So how did you feel about this?
Well, at first when I first saw her, I thought it was Shock T. So, but then I did, then I researched a little bit. Oh, okay, so it's not. So I was not familiar with who it was. Then I noticed that the tattooing was a little different. But I mean, as far as like having that particular character, I thought it was cool that it was a Twi'lek. I thought it was great that they really, instead of making it just a regular Jedi, like humanoid Jedi, it was more of an alien type character. But was not familiar with who she was, but I'm intrigued, and it sort of is going to get me into looking at some of the the outside stories and thinking about that. The original Star Wars stories were all told from the droids' point of view. The droids were the ones that were consistent through the whole thing. So why not now? Now the story is about the Mandalorian. And all this other stuff can happen all at the same time, but it all is sort of being told, or you're sort of experiencing it through his
eyes, his point of view,
his experience. Now, you can have all this other stuff going on, all these other stories, these other adventures, multiple episodes can just focus on other characters, but then it always centers back to him and maybe what he's doing. Maybe he's going to go on some new mission. He's taken care of the child, gotten that underway, something else, some other conflicts. Maybe he pulls help in from all his new friends that he's met. He's able to actually expand his bounty hunting, main goal a little bit, because he can get help whenever he wants at different points in the galaxy. Just kind of keep it. It's like a whole new thing. It doesn't actually have to be all separate episodes. That is one. That would really be cool. I would have no problem with that. But
and I guess moving on to the final point of the stream here, and like I said, appreciate everybody kind of rolling with us on this pilot kind of episode thing. We went back to the prequel trilogy, and it looks like we found out that Grogu was not only a Jedi, but was trained on Coruscant at the Jedi Temple. So I guess for everybody, on the stream, as far as this, we'll start with, kind of our final debate points here. But even everybody listening, I guess the question I have for you in your mind is, first off, hearing that he was there when obviously Anakin was there, and was there during the slaughtering, which Anakin, or we'll say Vader, had caused at that point. Who do you think had saved the child? Because that was a big, kind of talking point that, allows us to kind of each give our point. And everybody listening, if you want to put in the comments or anything like that, who do you think, as far as your theory on who could have saved him and hid him in the galaxy? We'll start with you, Hitch, and we'll kind of go around the horn.
Well, I mean, I want to say Space Jimmy Smits, because that's who grabs the green guys from under the Senate Hall. That's a tough one. I was considering this because at the time, during the Scourge of the Temple, the Empire wasn't really looking for, other high M count beings, right? There was a glut of them. They were trying to eliminate them. So I don't think it was anybody from the Empire that cornered him or whatever. I gotta believe it's some as of yet unrevealed Jedi that maybe we don't even know, because we know what Obi-Wan was doing, we know what Yoda was doing, and we know that Order 66 was pretty effective because we see so few Jedi in the current timeline after the Battle of Yavin. So I have no idea. This is such a great question. I would say some as to unknown, third party, or maybe some Jedi tried to spirit him out and they got killed, and it was like some, I don't know, black market thing. I have no idea. I thought Darth Vader was a fairly thorough operator when he conducted his purges. But I guess, hey, people make mistakes, right? I thought he was at least as effective as Joe Stalin, right? I mean, that's the level of effectiveness I assigned to our Darth Vader purge.
What do you think, Dog Pound?
I couldn't even say. Yeah. I couldn't even say who. What do you think, Ken?
Well, it would have to be someone in the very skeptical range. Like Yoda was very skeptical. Mace Windu was a very skeptical Jedi. You know, as far as who would be trained and who wouldn't be trained, you have a lot of insight there. Wouldn't be them, but it would have to be someone of that caliber. Also, maybe a council member, someone who is definitely more in charge, but could get time alone to take him away. You know, be able to have the facility and the wherewithal to hide something of that power, because obviously he's powerful. Obviously they knew it and they weren't ready to deal with it at the time. I mean, that was the impression I got. The training never happened because they weren't able to deal with it for whatever reason, right? I mean, so they stopped and they got him out of there because they knew something else was coming, so they wanted to protect him. So I think there would be someone who would be very skeptical about the whole thing, that would want to kind of pause it, hide him till a later date when they could deal with it. So,
how do you guys like the way that she communicates with Grogu?
Mental telepathy, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You know, that sort of stuff. It's described at length in the books if you have the time.
Right.
Read them.
Yeah.
She said he thinks of you as a father. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I was kind of torn, as far as what you guys are saying, also on my thoughts on it. The first thing was I thought that maybe Palpatine had, kind of got a hold of him and, tried to turn him, because they kind of mentioned he had some dark thoughts. So maybe my first idea was Palpatine got him and they were trying to experiment on him at an early age to maybe de-age him or, strengthen his call to the Force, because we know later on at the end, the most powerful Jedi is a Jedi that has both light and dark side. So maybe it was something Palpatine had in his long play. But as I really dissected it, and kind of a fanboy in me, I 100% in my mind think it's Mace Windu. I still don't see how he died from that fall. He's the highest ranking Jedi Council member, best swordsman on the Council. They cut his hand off, so he can have a robotic hand, but they pushed him out a window. I've seen Jedi fall. I've seen Anakin fall. They can survive that fall. So in my eyes, he did not die at that point. I think that he is the one who saved it. And I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm hoping, Disney's watching this, which they probably aren't, but please bring back Mace Windu. I just think he was the guy who saved him. I just wanted the one final shot or something of him. I think it's Mace Windu who saved it.
So when he flies out the window, when Sidious throws him out the window
with the lightning,
story about that? What happens to him after that, or is it?
There's nothing.
Nothing. Well,
no, they didn't write anything of it. There were some murmurs in like Rebels and stuff like that, but as far as him, I mean, it was it was a created character kind of in one sense, because as we know, Samuel L. Jackson is the only person that had a purple lightsaber. It was his choice as far as color. So purple lightsabers did not exist until Samuel L. Jackson played the character. So yeah, I don't know as far as that. We have Rosario Dawson who's playing Ahsoka. We're starting to get some A-listers. Who doesn't say that Samuel L. Jackson does a cameo or something like that. I mean, that would be huge.
If Sam Jackson comes around the corner with an eye patch and a robot hand, I'm in. I'm in for whatever series that is, for however many episodes. It doesn't have to have anything to do with Grogu or the Mandalorian. I just want to see however many of those Sam wants to make, right? You can tell.
Sam was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a couple episodes, so it's not beyond,
So that's
if we know anything about Sam Jackson, it's that he's fine with working. He is fine with that.
Yeah. This was an awesome episode, guys. I mean, you had Michael Biehn in there, Terminator. He was in the episode. It was hard for me to recognize him, because his hair was like really painted, really dyed and everything. But when he started smiling, that's Michael Biehn. I love the way the Ahsoka was facing off with I can't remember the lady's name and everything, but I just love that face off. And like the, ensuing fight between them two, and how the camera just went back and forth between Mando and Michael Biehn's character. and Ahsoka Tano, you know, her fight and everything, and he was they were listening to the fight, you know, happening in the background there. So I really love like the direction. Dave Filoni directed this episode, so shout out to
Interesting
him.
side note that that lady that was fighting is actually Bruce Lee's goddaughter.
What? Oh wow. Okay.
This was on top of being, as all the things we said and introducing all the awesome concepts we said, an excellent Western. On top of being all those things, the showdowns, the high noon, Ahsoka's that shot from the bell where they were looking out and she was running up and you could see how fast she was moving and she looked like like a leopard or something, just coming flying up, and like you knew immediately all of those people were they're in trouble. Like they're done. Like the opportunity to stop this has passed. And there is nothing that any of these goobers are going to be able to do to stop her from doing what she's going to do. And I thought that the way they shot this episode with all the menace and that excellent scene where they were listening to the fight, where they were listening to it and kind of going, who do you think's going to win this one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
right.
man. Really excellent.
The thing that caught me, and I guess my final point, was the fact that you've seen Ahsoka for what she was, which was crazy because she was no longer a Jedi as far as the Order. If you follow some of the series, she was actually an outcast because of kind of her being Anakin's apprentice. She was more of Anakin-style Jedi, meaning she was more of a hunter. And I think that's the cool thing that they brought forward as her character. Most Jedis, as we know, are supposed to be defenders of peace and more defensive. But the reason that she was outcast, as far as, you know, from the council, was her thought process, which was close to her master Anakin's, and it's her aggression, as we saw in there. So I kind of like how they made her character what she is, as far as in, you know, a lot of the, you know, the comics and animated series, is because, yeah, you don't see Jedi that aggressive and that, you know, as far as you know, on the assault or on the attack, so to speak.
Terrifying. And there are not, like, Darth Vader is terrifying, you know, like Yoda isn't terrifying in the sense that you don't think that he's just gonna cut you, you know what I mean? Like, that's not, like, he's not terrifying like that. Like, you think that he would just roll through everybody, but Vader has that, and it would make absolute sense that Ahsoka would have it too, right? Because she is, for all intents and purposes, you know, except for maybe like not like powered up to 9,000 like it's DBZ, but she is essentially, philosophically, what Anakin would have been had he not fallen. Yeah, they're from the same. She's maybe what Obi-Wan would have ended up making. You know what I mean? If Anakin hadn't been so insanely overpowered.
Well, guys, you know, like I said, I really appreciate everybody coming on. I really appreciate if you guys are still listening. It's a little longer show, so hopefully this has filled out your car ride home from work. But, you know, I'm going to toss this over to Hitch and DP as far as, you know, signing us off. And like I said, if you guys really enjoyed this format, let us know. Something different we tried.
In the comments below.
As we said, everybody's doing reactions. We can get back to reactions as well, but just something we thought that maybe something different nobody's done, and to give people a voice. You know, if you guys in the comments below want to put your opinion, open to reading it out. You know, putting some things on the screen and even reading those comments out as far as what your thoughts are, even in the next stream. So, trying to get you guys more interactive. We're trying to get more interactive with, you know, our audience. So, you know, I'll send it over to these guys to send us off. And thank you again.
Thanks so much, Trent. And, you know, to kick it off for the feedback this week, and you can send that feedback to nerds, that's Nerds, like the candy you may enjoy. Nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com, which is spelled like the channel, or it's in the notes, right, DP? You put that in the notes on the podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
So you can look that up. Now, here's what we want this week. Question of the week, because this is where we're leaving the debate. We're leaving the debate here, and that is, I want to hear everybody's scenario on how Grogu got out of the temple. I want them to be awesome, like Trenton's. Trenton's was awesome. Ours stunk. I don't know, it was a terrible answer, but Trenton's had a great answer. Even if you want to extrapolate from there, we want to hear your far-fetched scenario for how Grogu got out of the Jedi Temple alive. That's what we want to hear. And you can go to nerdcyclopedia.com if you want to see our other stuff. You can subscribe here. And remember, nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com, and we want to hear your far-fetched scenarios for Grogu's escape. DP, what would you like for our audience to be aware of? What do you got for them?
Make sure that you guys are subscribing to us at all our podcasts. You know, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, whether it be iHeartRadio, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're all over the place as far as listening to, to your podcast, or to our podcast, I should say. As Trenton was talking about, listening to your car, you can listen to it in your shower. Anywhere that you want to listen to us, we are there.
The nakeder, the better, I guess. That's where.
Oh, I found out. Go to your Alexa, because many of you guys got the Amazon Alexas. Just shout us out. We will come on. Say, Alexa, put on Carbonite Bounty BS, and we will be playing right on your Alexa.
I don't have my monitor on. It's the one sitting right here. All right, so that is it for this week for Chapter 13. We really enjoyed talking to everyone this week. We'll look forward to hearing from you in the comments. That's all I have. That's all we have for you this week. So we will see you later. And remember to subscribe. This is the way, everybody. See it.
Way.
This is the way.